and gentlemen, we couldn't think of a better way than to kick off this week's shows here on Sportinarium with the Sports Report. The number one global sports show by keeping it in-house, keeping it in family, with, of course, somebody who was on the show not too long ago. And he's one of the most important guests in show history because, frankly, he's made history as the first British black boxer to have fought 100 times, but also because he is doing a phenomenal job as the co-host of the Spartans Boxing Show, which is the number one boxing show for all the latest happenings in the world of professional boxing. And they talk with a who's who of fighters, including this past week's show, which I recommend everybody can check out now on the Sportinarium YouTube page. And you can do that by subscribing to @Sportinarium TV. He's doing a phenomenal job, obviously representing this station. And without further ado, here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show, the great my friend.
How are you, Tom? How are you today? Oh, it's nice. Thanks for having me on here. Really, really privileged. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My friend, anytime, of course, anything we can do for those here in the family at Sportinarium. And as always, a huge shout out to the entire team at Sportinarium, most importantly. And a number of them have been talking about the fight that has been heard around the world, which we're going to get your thoughts on here in a minute. I want to thank them personally to start, including Gail, including Steve, of course. Got to always make sure we remember Steve. And of course, Sean, who does a phenomenal job with the aforementioned Sportinarium YouTube page. And of course, Lakey, your co-host at the Spartans Boxing Show. I lost count where Lakey is. Dave, got to make sure we always recognize Dave, and Ryan, Connor, Martin, everybody at Sportinarium, but specifically all of them who do a phenomenal job in continuing to make us the number one
100%
radio station. And for our worldwide audience listening here on Sportinarium, it's been the fight heard around the world. And I wanted to get your hard-hitting analysis, literally, on the fight that was this past weekend between Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders, where Canelo Alvarez won in a sort of perplexing 8th round technical knockout.
Well, Tom, did you see the fight, Tom? Did you watch it?
I sure did. Yes, I did. I did watch it.
My opinion is, I thought it was a very good fight. And the thing is, Tom, Billy Joe Saunders, there's a lot of people that dislike him. And that's because the way he acts, puts himself up. They're not too keen, his attitude, the way he is, But as a fighter, he's a very good fighter. People don't like the way he carries on. Now, I thought how it was, he was doing a fantastic job. He was fighting brilliantly and boxing fantastically. And in my opinion, there was nothing in that fight. If anything, I thought Billy Joe was just edging it on points, moving around and jabbing and fighting very well. But now there's a lot of people that aren't very keen on him. So it seems like there was all biased towards Canelo. And, they were saying stuff like, oh, look at him, look at the shot, what he did. To be quite honest, he was defending himself very, very well. And he was doing very good. And he got stopped because he got hit in the eye. And that's the main reason why he got stopped. But because him being stopped and getting hit in the eye, you got people saying, oh, if that didn't happen, I think we would have caught up with him anyway. How can anybody say that? He was boxing very well. Who is it for anyone to say that he was going to get stopped anyway when he was boxing brilliantly until he got hit in his eye? The fact that people don't like the fella, that's what they say, oh, he was going to but no, I don't agree. In my opinion, Thomas, I actually thought he would have outboxed Canelo, which he seemed to be doing very well. He seemed to be boxing very well. And in my opinion, I thought he would have outboxed him, but wouldn't have got the decision anyway. So it was probably better it ended that way than it got the decision and him not get the decision. But Thomas, I thought that he put up a very, very good performance when he was fighting Canelo. I really do.
Let me ask you this question, Arv. When you're watching the fight, and it seemed like there was a strategy that Billy Joe Saunders had throughout the fight against Canelo Alvarez, because he was moving around and he wasn't allowing Canelo Alvarez to get into a rhythm until that last round. Specifically, I'd say the last 2 minutes of that fight. Do you think going into that fight that there was a strategy by Billy Joe Saunders and his trainers where they forced Canelo to chase him around?
Yep, I really do. I think that the strategy he was using, the strategy he was using was absolutely fantastic because Canelo couldn't figure him out. Canelo couldn't figure him out, and I thought he was boxing very well. I really do. So I don't know why people say this and say that about him. He was doing a phenomenal job. To me, the problem was when he got an uppercut and it really landed on the cheekbone and on the eye. I mean, people, Thomas, people saying, quitter, quitter. The people know you need your two eyes to box. You need your two eyes to box. I mean, Thomas, say from that one shot, what he's got, he might not be able to box again anyway. Never mind, people expect him to carry on with the way that shot landed. You could see that it done some damage. It was a right uppercut full on, and people expect him to carry on. The fact is that from that one shot, he's probably damaged anyway, and people want him to carry on. How silly of anyone to think that? He'd done the right thing by pulling himself out, him and his trainer, and if he can, save it for another day. But the thing is, Thomas, he might not even be able to fight again. Who knows? I hope he can, but he might not be able to. But it's from that shot that things went wrong. Until then, I thought he was doing fantastic. Canelo was throwing his bombs and he was defending himself and moving around. He's got fantastic feet, better feet than Canelo's got, because he ain't got very good footwork to me. But Billy Joe Saunders has got fabulous feet, and I thought he was using the right tactics and everything was going well until the uppercut landed and caught him on his eye.
Let me ask you.
But that's my opinion, Thomas. But
that's why we watch you on the show.
No one sees it the same as my.
Arv, you've been in the ring 100 times, so you've been in those instances. And I was curious because you did bring up the fact about that Billy Joe Saunders may not be able to fight again. And if you were in that position, again, you fought a lot of fighters. You fought a Junior Witter. You fought an Ashley Theophane. So you've been in that squared circle with world champions. So you know what it's like to be in there with somebody like a Canelo. Let's say if you're in that position, you're in the position of Billy Joe Saunders. Would you have wanted to go out there and continue to fight?
Not like that. Someone powerful like that, and that caught, and he hit me that way. I mean, we all know that Canelo, he can bang, can't he? He's a huge puncher, and to be hit like that, I mean, the thing is, Thomas, nobody knows what it done to him. I mean, it's hard enough being hit full on, and it absolutely kills, and you want to carry on. There's people that can't stand up to that kind of punishment, but after being hit by him, you would pull yourself out anyway, because you don't know what damage, what you could have caused. What's the point in fighting on? You save it for another day. I mean, like I say, you might not even, from that first shot, you might not be able to fight ever again in your career. It'd be better to pull yourself out. And like I say, Thomas, his career might be over. I don't think, in my opinion, I would like him to be able to continue, but I don't think he'll be able to continue because he don't know what damage he's done. There was quite a few saying that he's had multiple fractures and stuff, I mean, and you know what, Thomas, say if you've got retina detachment, and that's bad things, I've had that. And that's quite a bad thing, retina detachment. Thomas, people say, Thomas, quitter. But it's not a quitter. What's the point in carrying on and then your career finished and you can't fight ever again? But when you box the square circle, it's your eyes what you need 100% to help you to do what you're doing, to deliver what you're doing, showing your shots and moving out of the way and being able to score shots. And people was calling him a quitter. You can't call him a quitter. He's done the right thing. I mean, like I say, he's done the right thing. He still may not be able to fight again.
What do you think the recovery time, though, would be? Let's say he's cleared to return to the ring.
You're still going to need about a good 8 months at least. Your eyesight is important, and it does take a lot of time to heal. See, he hasn't got any retina detachment, I don't think, but he's got fractures and that kind of thing, hasn't he? Which takes time. You need a bit of recovery time for that to heal itself. At least 7-8 months.
Let me ask you another question, Arv, because again, you've been in the ring. You know what it's like. You fought 100 times. You fought countless world champions. We talked about that when you came on the show last month. Let's say if Billy Joe Saunders had been a little bit more humble and he didn't say as many things as he said prior to the fight, do you think that the crowd, or let's say the boxing fan, would have been much more sympathetic toward him and possibly might have even been rooting for him?
There you go. Everything would be totally different to this. People would speak totally different. Wouldn't that the way he is? People hate it, but that's their attitude. He's going to lose anyway. But if he was more humble, they act differently, everybody would be on his side. It's funny how things go, isn't it? And that's what I'm getting at. The fact is, the way his attitude, they hate him straight straight away and they don't give him a chance. Now, if he had a different attitude and were humble and didn't carry on the way he did, they'd be different towards him. But the thing is, Thomas, you can't judge a person when he acts like that because they do that for a reason sometimes to get people to watch and that kind of thing. Let me give you an instance. Tyson Fury. I like Tyson Fury. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met, Yet when you see him on the telly, people are against him. Oh, he's this and he's that. But he does it to get people to watch. I watch him. I met him maybe 3 or 4 times, and I thought that he's a gentleman and he's a lovely, lovely man, and no one ever says nothing like that, do they? No one ever says nothing like that. But I'm saying I've met him 3 or 4 times, and he's a very nice, humble guy, I thought. And his wife, I thought they were very nice people. Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, I can't stand him, and it's boxing, and this is what people do, they act that way, don't they? But, to get the crowds in and that kind of thing, but that don't mean to say the person in reality is the way they are. I've never met Billy Joe Saunders, but I could bet he'd be the same way, You meet him and he's a lovely guy. But this is a sport of boxing and people act this sort of way, don't they? It's not everybody who acts humble, even if they may be humble in person. They do it for a reason to get the crowds in. It helps, So that's a definite 100%. My opinion is if he was acting the way how people want him to act on the TV, everybody's going to love him and everybody will be different and say and talk differently. But the fact is he's not. He acts that way. Everybody's saying, oh, we would have lost anyway and we was getting battered. People saying, we're getting battered. Did you see all them shots? But no one's talking about the shots, the way he moved and he defended himself. He stick and he jabbed and he moved around. No one's talking about that because nobody likes him. So they're just talking about Canelo, what Canelo done. No one ain't talking about what he done.
He fought a good fight. I gotta tell you, listen, Arv, he fought a very good fight. We were talking about this, and I'm sure you were looking at some of the messages that we had in our WhatsApp group here on Sport and Area. We're with Arv Mittoo, the legendary Arv Mittoo, of course, the first British black boxer to have fought 100 times and co-host of the Spartans boxing show with Trevor Lake, otherwise known as Lakey here. And I am the host of the Sports Report, the Reverend Tom Brice, and we're talking all things related to the fallout between Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders, as Canelo Alvarez is moving a lot closer now to unifying all the super middleweight titles, as he's out the WBA, the WBC, and the WBO super middleweight champion of the world after an 8th round technical knockout victory over Billy Joe Saunders. And we are talking all things related to the fight. And I felt like going into the fight, I think everybody kind of thought, Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo, like you said. But in the fight, I have to say, and you talked about it when I asked you the question to start off, Billy Joe Saunders was in the fight. I mean, I don't know if he was winning the fight going into the 8th round, but he sure as hell had a really good chance. And I want to say in the middle of that fight, maybe the rounds 3, 4, and 5, I mean, he hit Canelo a couple of times pretty hard. And like we were saying, Canelo didn't get into a rhythm. I mean, do you think that this was all about mind games? Because it was talked about during the fight and before both fighters came out. And maybe it was possible that Billy Joe Saunders, this was all an act and it was all about mind games, and that this is what he knew he had to do in order to win the fight. Do you think it was mind games?
Yeah, I think it was mind games. I'm surprised it was mind games. I mean, but in my opinion, and I said this to a lot of people, even though 1 or 2 people laughed at me when he'd lost. But, he did play quite a few mind games, but he was going to win the fight. In my opinion, he would have won the fight. But yeah, up to it coming, I think there was a lot of mind games involved. But Thomas, apart from what happened to him, with him being hit in the eye, I say it again, he was doing very well and he was in the fight. There was even one of the blogs was doing the commentary, him a couple of rounds up in the fight at the time, and it seemed like he was boxing very smooth and he was doing very well. I mean, people say, we can't hit hard and that. He can hit hard enough to keep you off. So if he had keep up what he was doing and he was doing very well, to me, he probably wouldn't have got the decision. In theory, if you watch it in practical, everybody would have said, we thought he'd done enough. But the fact he got stopped with a shot in the eye, everyone was there saying, this and that, because they don't like him, writing him off.
Well, there was some of us in our WhatsApp group, Arv, that did not like Canelo. And I have to say, your co-host on the Spartans boxing show, Trevor Lakey, Mr. Lakey said that if that fight would have continued, Canelo would have finished it the next round. I mean, do you agree with Mr. Lakey's theory?
No. Yeah, I love Lakey. He's a lovely guy. But I don't think... I know. He was like he was one of them who says, he's gonna get hammered, he's gonna get finished. But I honestly think, Thomas, I honestly think he would have gone the distance. He would have outboxed him, but he got the decision. That's what I thought. I mean, I even put something up, Thomas, on Twitter saying that he's going to win and that, and no two people laughed at me because he lost.
I can see
but
that.
I was really confident. Yeah. I mean, I felt really confident he was going to win because of his abilities to box so well, And Thomas, even if a person can hit hard, if you're a slick boxer, it don't matter how hard a person can hit you manage to be able to avoid them every shot. I know when Billy Joe Saunders fought in Quebec, I know that guy weren't in Canelo's class. He was a huge puncher. He never even landed a shot. I'm just saying, it's not how hard you can hit. It's how skillful you are, And even though Canelo hit him with some good shots, I think he was fine. I really do. He was doing very well. The thing what caused the problem was the uppercut to the eye. What's caused the big problem with him? And if it weren't for the uppercut to the eye, I really think it would have gone the distance. I'm not saying that he was going to get the decision, but I thought he would have probably done enough to deserve the decision. I mean, I've seen two other southpaws. I mean, Canelo, everybody say how elite Canelo is, but I've seen him fight two southpaws and had problems and didn't think he won the fight, but got the decision in Austin Trout. Or Austin Trout done enough, even though one or two people will say, no, we thought Canelo won. I thought Austin Trout done enough. And I thought Aslan De Lara done enough. I thought he'd done enough to win the fight. They were southpaws. They were slick southpaws, and they never got the decision. Now, I think that he would have gone the same way with Billy Joe Saunders. He would have gone the distance and boxed well and done enough to win, but the decision would have gone against him. But he got a uppercut in the eye, and everyone's saying, knew this was going to happen, and all this. Those that don't like Billy Joe Saunders, that's what they say. Thomas, that's what they say about the whole thing.
I want to ask you that question, Arv, and I want to ask you that because you said something interesting, and you've been in those shoes of a Billy Joe Saunders where you fight well enough to win the fight. And let's say hypothetically that fight would have went 12 rounds, and going into that 8th round, I know on my scorecard, I think I had Canelo maybe up by a point going into the last round, and maybe even after the conclusion of the fight, I think I might have had Canelo up by 2 points. I think I had Billy Joe Saunders with 3 rounds, and I think I had Canelo with maybe 4, and I had one which was the first round, where both fighters really didn't do much. I had it as a draw. I know some people had that Canelo overwhelmingly, which I didn't understand on the American feed, but I want to ask you this question on that. Let's say if it went 12 rounds and Billy Joe Saunders had a fighting chance to win that fight, do you think that the judges would have went against him because it was a pro-Canelo crowd?
Yeah, they would have went against Billy Joe. And you know what? The scorecards was, if I remember, Thomas, the scorecards was terrible anyway.
No, it was 5 points.
In my opinion, I had
Canelo. They had two of the judges had Canelo by 5, and one of them had him by 3. The most that you could have seen watching the 8 rounds of that fight would be Canelo up by 2 points.
There you go. Now, if that had gone to the distance, the crowd would have been watching and saying, my word, Billy Joe's won, is good enough to win. And then they would have heard the decision and he would have lost every round. It's as bad as that. But they always seem to get away with it and nothing gets done about it. But we all know, those who watch boxing like yourself, Thomas, and myself, and those who follow boxing, knows how it was going to be. They know, even if he'd done enough to edge it or do more than enough to win by a few rounds, he weren't going to get the decision. It was going to go the other way, and they would have said he never won a round. Because that's all it always goes. That's boxing for you. I don't know. It's like the main man who brings in all the money always wins, and everybody's on his side, the cash cow sort of thing. It seems that way because it always seems that way. Though the main one who's supposed to win is won before he's gone in and he's fought. From the minute he stepped in the ring, the man who's supposed to win has already won. And even if he goes in there and he's getting beat up, he's not going to lose because he's the one who's supposed to win.
And
Thomas, I love boxing, but it's always been that way.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's why I asked you that question, because you've been in those shoes. As we have a few more minutes with the legendary Arv Mittoo, the co-host of the Spartans Boxing Show, and he's one of the main reasons why Sportinarium is the #1 global radio station. I am the host of the Sports Report here, the Reverend Tom Brice, America's greatest export. We are here on Sportinarium, and everybody can follow Sportinarium on Twitter and Instagram at Sportinarium. You can like Sportinarium on Facebook at Sportinarium Media. You can subscribe to the Sport Sportinarium YouTube page at Sportinarium TV, where you can find the latest Spartans boxing show with the legendary Paul Mann. A who's who of people have come on the Spartans boxing show, and everybody can go on YouTube and subscribe to all the great content that the boys have, especially Trevor and Arv, for all the great things that they do with the Spartans boxing show. And also, you want to make sure you go to Sportinarium.com, where in addition to finding out those great interviews that Arv and Lakey have with Paul Mann, you can also go to Sportinarium.com and listen to him and everybody else 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and the Sports Report from Friday to Sunday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. UK time. That's from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., Friday to Sunday. And we're here on Sportinarium.com, and we are talking the fallout from Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders for a few more minutes with the legendary Arv Mittoo, the first British black boxer to have fought 100 times. And everybody he pretty much fought went on to become a world champion, including the likes of Ashley Theophane and Junior Witter. But on our show, most importantly, Arv Mittoo is our world champion. And for Sportinarium, he is our world champion. He is our greatest fighter, and he is one of the greatest of all time. And he is certainly one of the reasons why Sportinarium is what it is today. And we continue to talk the fallout from Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders for a few more minutes. And Arv, I got to ask you then this question. We've talked about Billy Joe Saunders, and we're not quite sure if he's going to continue to fight. And we asked you sort of the recovery process from that. I got to ask you then, for our worldwide audience listening here on Sportinarium, where do we go from here with Canelo?
Well, he'll just continue doing what he's doing. I mean, I can't really say. Thomas, I mean, what great fighter has he fought, really? I don't know. You know, is there anybody else to fight for him? But, you know, my opinion, I don't think he's great. And I do think there is someone out there who can beat him. But, you know, it's boxing. He really get it. You know, it's boxing, it's management. I mean, whoever there is out there to give him a fight and beat him, I can't really say. But there's got to be someone out there, a good fighter. But in my opinion, he's beatable. He isn't fantastic the way everybody's making out he is. You know, he's beatable. So I don't know what to say. I don't know who to say he can fight. But I noticed he struggles a lot with southpaws. And it looked like to me, it looked like, apart from throwing that uppercut, what he landed, okay, he landed it, and the fight was over. But just say if that didn't land, what would have happened? Would he have been outboxed? But if you speak to anybody, no, you can see he was catching up with him and he was going to lose. But that's not my opinion. I don't agree with that. I thought he was doing very, very well until that happened. But at the same time as well, Tom, I still think he's done the right thing with putting himself out, him and his trainer.
If you're the Canelo camp, when do you start watching tape of that fight?
Well, I'd want to watch straight away, very, very soon, because it's something you want to try and work. It's something that you want to do, because it's not just Canelo what gave him problems. 2 other southpaws gave him problems the same way. So you would think that they'd want to try and get it sorted straight away, watch sorted and see what can we work on. But again, I don't know, it just seems like he has problems with southpaws, and it's because you would have thought, with the people who I thought beat him, they would have thought that then we better watch to see what we can change for the next time he comes up against somebody like that. But again, he come up against Billy Joe Saunders, and Billy Joe Saunders was giving him problems. He was landing his shots, and Billy was, a lot of the shots, he got out of the way, he jabbed and moved, and he defended himself well. He weren't in any problems. He was in no problems. People saying he was in problem, he weren't in no problems. Don't get me wrong, Thomas, he was hit hard. He weren't in any problems. He was doing very well. And I don't think that he was going to get stopped. I thought that he would have defended himself and he would have stayed on the move for the 12 rounds. He didn't look in any trouble. The only trouble he was in was when he got hit in the eye. Then that would be stupid to carry on, wouldn't it?
Well, that was a lot of trouble. Listen, Arv, the last minute of the 8th round, there was a lot of trouble. In fact, there was one instance before the round ended where it looked like Billy Joe Saunders couldn't even stand back up. It was almost as if he was going to basically be in a crouch position the last 20 seconds of that round. So looked at it and you weren't sure what was going to happen.
Thomas, I was glad he pulled out, because I thought, you know what, he's going to probably carry on and then he will get hammered because he's only got one eye and he can't see what he's doing, and he'll probably just try to carry on to survive. I hope he don't do that. That was my thoughts in my mind. So I was glad when he was pulled out. His trainer I was glad he was pulled out, because if you look at that shot in slow motion, oh my word, that shot in slow motion right on the cheek and the eye, oh, it looked devastating. That has got to have caused some damage.
I posted a video, Arv, Canelo in slow motion. I posted a video on my Instagram and Twitter of Canelo punching. This was early in the fight. And even early in the fight, in the second round, when Canelo threw a punch at Billy Joe Saunders in slow motion, that's going to definitely hurt. And you've been in the ring. I mean, you've given out your fair share and you've taken your fair share. So I can only imagine the pain that Billy Joe Saunders was in. But I want to ask you this last question on the fight, and then I want to promote, obviously, the Spartan show and all the great things that you and Lakey are doing. But I want to ask you this last question. In your opinion, is Canelo the best fighter in the world?
Oh, for now, because nobody else has beaten him, Thomas. For now, but for now, Thomas, because no one's beaten Thomas. You know what though? For now, because no one's beating him. What I will say, he cannot win. Everyone is beatable. That's my opinion. He's a beatable fighter. He may be a world champion. But the way people are carrying on, like he can't be beaten. But to me, he's beatable, and he will lose soon. But as for now, he's the world champion, and no one has beaten him. But that won't stay like that. He'll get beaten soon. But as well, Thomas, it's whether they'll give the other person the decision. I think for you to beat him, Thomas, for you to beat him, you'd have to do what Floyd done and won every round convincingly. And not only that, Floyd was also like the top man himself, wasn't he? Sort of like the cash cow sort of thing.
Good point. Good point.
You know, as well. So you'd have to beat him convincingly. You know, if you sort of do it a 3 or 4 rounds, what you can see clearly, you're not going to win like that. You got to win every round convincingly, not a few here and there and so, I thought so-and-so won, because they're not going to give it to them. So it's either to win that way or knock him out. And I can't really see anybody knock him out, because I saw Golovkin hit with a shot. My word, he would have took anybody's head off. Didn't even move his chin.
Yeah, no, you definitely got to win these fights convincingly. And I know one thing, ladies and gentlemen, a rising tide lifts all boats. And we're going to certainly see if somebody's tide is going to lift the boats against Canelo Alvarez. And we'll certainly see if Canelo Alvarez will remain possibly, pound for pound, the best fighter in the world. But I know on Sportinarium, the best fighter on our station and the best fighter on behalf of Sportinarium is certainly the legendary Arv Mittoo. And Arv, before we get your closing thoughts here, I mean, what a show you guys had that aired this past weekend with the legendary Paul Mann. I mean, you got to talk about Paul Mann and also talk about what we can expect ahead
wonderful
with the Spartan show. So talk about the Paul Mann interview and what we can expect in the next few weeks with you guys in the Spartans boxing show.
Well, you know what? The Paul Mann interview was a great interview. I actually know that fellow personally, Thomas, you know, and he's a gentleman. I love him to death, Paul Mann. Very good guy, very good trainer. Doing great things in the Midlands where I'm from, doing very great things. And for the future, what I wanted me and Lakey to do is interview a fighter who won the British and Commonwealth title a few weeks ago. That's what me and Lakey should be doing in the next few weeks, I hope. But yeah, Mr. Paul's a great man, and he's doing great things for all the fighters in the Midlands area, which is where I'm from, Thomas. Midlands, a part of England. It's the part where I live, classed as the Midlands, and that's where I'm from. That's where Paul Mann's from, and that's where he trains a lot of elite fighters there, and they're all doing very well. They have a lot of British, Commonwealth, and even world champions there, you know. But that's what me and Lakey will be doing for the future, interviewing more fighters and trying to get him on. Lennox Clark, Commonwealth and British champion at the moment. That's our next one.
And ladies and gentlemen, I can't wait for those interviews. And also the boys recently interviewed Peter Buckley, and he has quite a story that everybody should check out on. And there is a who's who of interviews that you can find on the Sportinarium YouTube page at Sportinarium TV. So we want to make sure everybody goes to the Sportinarium YouTube page at Sportinarium TV and check the boys out on the weekends. This past week's show aired at 4 p.m. UK time, 11 p.m. Eastern time here in the US. So make sure you keep it dialed in on Sportinarium on Sundays for the Spartans boxing show. We're extremely excited about the future. Also, congratulations to Lakey. Lakey's doing a lot of great things, obviously, promoting, and what a phenomenal job he did.
Yes, he really is.
Lakey's the man. Lakey is the man.
100%. Did you see his commentary on the old ladies?
You know, I did, Arv, and I almost got to bring it up then. I got to ask you, I mean, what did you think about Mr. Trevor Lake as an announcer?
I thought Mr. Trevor Lake did a fantastic job, like I thought he would. He seems to be very good at that kind of thing. It's the first time on him doing a commentary on a TV, you know, like a TV fight card. I said, you know what? You're absolutely fantastic. And you know what, Thomas? I thought he did. I thought he'd done a great job with Lee McAllister and the all-ladies fight card the other week. I thought he'd done a very good job, and I'm sure he'll be doing a few more here and there, quite a lot more. I'm quite happy for him. He deserves it.
I think he definitely deserves it. He's the hardest working man in show business. He is the reason we're all on Sportinarium.
100%.
So,
really.
if it wasn't for Lakey, listen.
That's right.
If it wasn't for Lakey, we wouldn't be talking right now. So I want to make sure that we recognize Lakey.
I totally agree, Thomas. Thomas,
Absolutely.
I agree 100%. You know what, Thomas? I've always been a man who likes to talk about boxing quite a lot with friends, and they get fed up with it and say, "Yeah, you're always talking about boxing." Even colleagues at work, will go on about me. And I couldn't believe it when Lakey got me involved in this, and I can't thank him enough. Just get me involved in something that I enjoy doing, talking about boxing.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to go on the record before I get your closing thoughts here. Maybe next time we see the ladies fight on Fight TV, and we know that there's one already scheduled for September the 4th, which you can find out more information on our Sportinarium page at sportinarium.com. Why not? Let's say Lee McAllister, Trevor Lake, and how about Arv Mittoo on commentary? Why not? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you're the first British black boxer to have fought 100 times. You have fought a who's who of champions. I'm sure there's definitely room, and we can have room for 3 calling those fights. I mean, why not? How about it, Arv?
Who knows? But Lee and Lake are doing a very good job right now. So leave it to them, leave it to them guys for now. But who knows? If there's any way, I wouldn't mind. But them two are doing a great job, so I think that's nice.
Absolutely, though. We'll certainly see it. We're extremely excited and looking forward to the future for the ladies' fights, and also cannot thank enough Lee McAllister for his help in putting together the fight on Fight TV. And huge shout outs once again to Nicola the Hurricane Hopewell, who came on the show 2 weeks ago, and Holly Blombaum-Ratal and Ellie Triple L Coles. And also congratulations to Chris Boyle again of the Xbox Academy. He's done some shows for us here in the past, and he's been with Lakey on Sportinarium, so I want to make sure we recognize them as well. We're extremely excited about the future of the cards that Trevor and obviously Lee are going to put on, and we cannot wait to watch those on Fight TV. So for you, my friend, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you any closing thoughts. As always, please plug where all of our listeners can get in touch with you. I cannot thank you enough for all that you do for us, especially here on Sportinarium. So anything you want to say to your many fans out there, anything you want to say to all of the other presenters on Sportinarium, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, give us a follow. Me, Trevor Lake, Ryan. I'm useless with names. There's so many names. Gail, all these lots on the Sportinarium team. Yourself, you can follow us all on Twitter, Instagram, 1 or 2 of them on Facebook as well. And go onto YouTube and have a listen to our content. Great content on there. And that's it, Thomas. Can't think of anything more right now.
Well, I can think of one more thing, Arv. We got to make sure everybody follows you on Instagram at Fox Mittoo. That's at Fox Mittoo to find out why you are very important and why you are extremely integral to Sportinarium. And there would be no Sportinarium without you. And also on Instagram at Fox Mittoo. So you kept it easy for us. There's some people who have Twitter and Instagrams, and they've got like 2 different names and 3 different ways to spell it, but you did it pretty simple. So it's pretty simple. You cut it right to the point.
Yeah.
Twitter and Instagram at Fox Mittoo. Everybody can follow Sportinarium on Twitter and Instagram at Sportinarium. You can like Sportinarium at Sportinarium Media, and you can subscribe to the Sportinarium page on YouTube one more time at Sportinarium TV. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can check out Sportinarium and the great content it has at sportinarium.com. That's at sportinarium.com. And I also want to make sure everybody follows Lakey on Twitter at Lakey75. That's at Lakey75. So we want to make sure everybody does that. For you, my friend, I cannot thank you enough. I'm looking forward to having you on here in a few weeks. We'll make this a regular thing where we'll talk about all the latest happenings in the world of boxing.
Thank you so much.
You got it, my friend. Anything we can do for you, you know that we'll do it at a drop of a dime, a drop of a bucket. So we will make sure that we will always do that, my friend. I can't thank you enough.
And Tom, if you're ever wondering why I use the word fox, me too. As a young child, my older brother called me fox. So that's why I use the word fox.
I thought it was because maybe you saw a fox somewhere and said, you know what, that's a catchy thing to add. I don't know. Maybe that's why.
I always wonder if people wonder why do I use that name. As a young child, my oldest brother, who is now 58, has always called me fox. And it's even now, it's always been in my mind while I was a young child.
Well, you're still a very young man.
I was telling him about it.
You were still a very young man, Arv. We cannot thank you enough, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you soon.
Thank you so much. Likewise. Thank you for having me on your show, Thomas. And I really enjoy it.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime, my friend. As we're here on the Sports Report, the number 1 global sports show with the legendary co-host of the Spartans Boxing Show, the first British black boxer to have fought 100 times, and that's all Mittoo. As I am America's greatest export, the host of the Sports Report, the Reverend Tom Brice, and stay tuned for more hard-hitting analysis here on Sportinarium as we talk with Wildfire Nate Reese to talk this upcoming WrestleMania backlash when it comes to Lashley versus Drew McIntyre versus Braun Strowman for the Raw title, and we'll continue to talk all the latest happenings in the world of professional wrestling as we were just with the legendary Arv Mittoo, the first British black boxer to have fought 100 times and co-host of the Spartans Boxing Show here on Sportinarium, the #1 local radio station. I am the host of the Sports Report, the Reverend Tom Brice, and stay tuned for Wildfire Nate Reese as we talk the full out from all the latest happenings in the world of WWE, including this upcoming WrestleMania backlash here this Sunday on pay-per-view.